back with another one. Just wanted to say we knew this was going to happen. Well, some of us, lifting the mandates for a period of time, and then bam, bring it right back out again. Now, I'm not saying it's going to come back like it was before, but we're about to be a stretch where I do think they may possibly bring the mandates back, or at least scare us back into mandates. The other day, I was outside here in upstate New York, Rochester, and you can call me crazy, you can call me whatever you want, but I've seen this over the years, and I understand what's happening, possibly. But the other day I was outside before we got hit with a small snowstorm, and I noticed the air in the sky was very gray and smoggy and like misty. And it was like warm, but it was getting cold. And I was like, this doesn't seem right. And I was outside and I was talking to somebody. And I'm like, I don't know about this air, man. I got back into the car later on that day. A few hours, I started feeling like, I had that inflammation in my nose, because one thing that I did learn to do, because I do think like this, is I learned to breathe as I was supposed to. How humans are supposed to. We're supposed to breathe through our nostrils and exhale through our mouth. We're not supposed to be mouth breathers. Mouth breathing is a state of fear. So when you learn to retrain your breathing, you'll breathe through your nose, and therefore the air gets filtered. Your nasal passage contains antimicrobial properties that actually clean the air before it enters your body through the nitric oxide that's inside of your nasal passages and your mucus. All that is a barrier to protect the air from entering into your body and lungs. So without going too deep into that, like I was saying, later that day, I started feeling my nasal passage on fire, and the in the back of when you do that sniffling in, and you feel like you're getting a cold, and I start feeling a real tingling, and I'm like, man, weird. Feels like I'm about to get a cold. Later on that day, more towards the night, I'm eating and I'm noticing it. I'm like, it's like getting worse. And then when I went and sat and relaxed, I fell asleep, woke up, and it was on fire. I'm like, shit. I'm like, gotta be from earlier. The air, it just didn't seem right. And then, lo and behold, I go to sleep, wake up, and 3 o'clock in the morning, it was on fire. Like I got a cold. That feeling you getting a cold in your nasal passage. And then, I was taking my herbs and stuff. So, because I know when something's going down, when a toxin has entered my body. They haven't done anything I haven't done before whatsoever. Everything always the same, but I just noticed that. And then when I got up in the morning, it felt better, after taking the herbs. And then, as the day went on, that inflammation went down. Then I got the stuffy nose, because you're going to get the stuffy nose because it's trying to clear your nasal passage out of the toxins. And, I just understand what I see, and I'm not saying anything, but I'm saying it's in the air, okay? And this is why we're about to see an uptick of cases of people getting sick. So, if people were outside, there's going to be a little rise in people getting sick. And I made a video the other day. It says 1 day ago, but this was actually on. It says 1 day ago. I don't know why, but it doesn't even show the date. But I did this video on Friday. And this was the morning after the prior day when I noticed that. So, and as you can see in the title, and I talked about it in this video, the sickness is not over. And lo and behold, you see all the headlines within China, it's now on the rise. So I just wanted to get this video out there, telling people to stay safe. Anyone who's outdoors, people out in these trucking convoys, you may see an uptick of people getting sick. And, because I was up there, I seen the weather, and, you could do your research, but chemical weapons and biological agents have been used. Some of us do notice and could see, and these gases are chlorine, phosgene, and other materials that they disperse into the atmosphere, and people breathe it in, and lo and behold, you have a antigen or a bacteria, or what they dub a virus, which is a toxin and a poison that enters your body and causes you respiratory, illnesses, respiratory and nasal, cold, flu-like symptoms. I mean, it just is what it is. You can do your own research, but, I'm going to leave you with some of these screenshots from a while ago of people even reporting this smell in the area of upstate New York. Peace and love, everybody. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. And this was a few months ago. And this was sent to me because, somebody does watch my channel. And when this came up, they sent it right to me, because I've been talking about this since the beginning of this whole entire ordeal, when I was studying the 1918, situation, and being in a world war at the time that these agents, these chemicals ended that war, and we had an outbreak. But ironically, it was around the time of the the 1918. And just a quick rabbit hole you guys can go down about the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. I mean, it's well documented, chemical weapons in World War I. And, just put in U.S. Gas Corps 1915, but it's U.S. Army, Gas Corps. And you guys can go down the rabbit hole yourself, and it'll simply blow your mind. And fast forward to the 1918 flu pandemic, you have to ask yourself what was really going on. All right, because I've done videos about this years, not years ago, but before this Mr. hit hard as it did, before any lockdown was done in the United States, I did a video on this. And of course it got deleted, but it was great information. And when I even went as far as, okay, well, back in 1918, what were they using to configure that this was in existence? And then, all the news was propagating when they talked about the 1918, debacle. They would show a image from back then, when in fact that image came out in the 30s, because the microscope that they say was used was a stock photo from the 30s. They didn't have this technology back then to even look under a microscope to see what a so-called what was. So it was impossible for them to tell us that that was a so-called agent, because the technology didn't exist. The machinery didn't exist back then. The testing, how could they possibly test anybody for something? How did they know that there was something going on? They just knew people were getting these illnesses, and that's all they really knew. But when this was going on, I mean, you could only put 2 and 2 together, guys. I mean, we have to be smarter and do our own research, and I could be all wrong, but I just put it all together. And when this was in fact being used, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that, it is what it is, I mean, just look it up. Phosgene, chlorine, mustard gas. The chemical warfare was a major component of the First Global War and First Total War, killing, just a lot of 1.3 million. Okay? And, I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. I mean, do your own research. The first killing agent was chlorine, used by the German military. Chlorine was a powerful irritant. It can inflict damage to the eyes, nose, throat, and lungs. At high concentration and prolonged exposure, it can cause death by asphyxiation. German chemical companies, BASF. Okay, what is this? You guys already know what this is. This is still in play right now. All right, billion-dollar company. All right, make chemical weapons. What else? What else is here? Bayer. We already know what Bayer does. I mean, come on, people. We can't be that stupid. It's a German company. These Nazis and stuff like that. I mean, you got to put two and two together, people. They have a whole book, U.S. Army Corporation. Just look at the Chemical Warfare Service from Laboratory to Field. I mean, it's a 519-page book. Chemical warfare. I mean, they let you know what was going on. People have to read, and just do your own research. I've read through this book. I mean, this stuff will blow your mind when you actually start to get in this, It really blows your mind. And unfortunately, this company still exists. Okay? It's back. Look. Active June 1918 to present. So you guys can do this research. U.S. Chemical Corps traces history back to World War I. The German use of chemical weapons. I mean, it's very, it's very interesting. First successful use, look at 1950. First successful use of lethal chemicals occurred on battlefield in Europe. Following this, the United States began researching chemical warfare. U.S. Army established the Chemical Warfare Services to create, study, and train soldiers in chemical warfare. That was in 1918. All right. And if you know how they dispersed this, because I did the research, I'm just giving you a crash course. They released it into the jet stream, okay? They released it into the jet stream. And look at all the talk of bioweapons in Ukraine right now, and all this stuff. I mean, they're basically telling us, they're telling us what's going on, okay? So, I mean, and then this is another thing, guys. Research chemical weapons and biological weapons. All right. Bio means life. So these are all chemical agents. Okay. You have to come to that realization. It's by studying biology and chemistry to know that chemicals create biological warfare. All right. All this talk of biological agents being used and spread. No, they use chemicals to create a reaction in your body from the chemical, from the toxin, from the poison. Because if you look up the etymology of the word virus, it simply means poison. Look up the etymology of the word poison, it means toxin. So when they say you got a virus, they're telling you, okay, that word is new. They're telling you have been poisoned. Okay? This is fact. Look up the etymology of words. It'll blow your mind. Virus means poison. Poison means toxin. Okay? When you understand your body, it fights off toxins and bacteria. That's what it does. It's biology 101. Okay? I'm just putting this out there for information to people. Pay attention when you're outdoors. Pay attention to the skies. And pay attention to people getting sick. And you'll know. Pay attention to you smell. You smell fresh cut grass and hay and chlorine. That's something going on. When you look across the horizon and look across land and you're viewing mountains and the air looks like a white tint, I see it all the time. Know that there is a respiratory, that is an agent in the air. all right? Because I've seen this. I travel a lot by land, and I see this stuff a lot. You know, when I travel to Florida in the winter, I know when I go through some of these areas, I'm like, holy crap, I bring my herbs, my lung-enhancing herbs, because I can see it in the air. It's a white haze, you know? And sometimes it's that tint of yellow haze in that low air. You know, it's pretty wild. And some people will dismiss it as fog, but keep breathing it in and see what happens. You know, I close my vents on, you know, on the car and turn it on circulation or whatever vehicle I'm driving, you know. And some cars, you know, the high-end cars, they have charcoal filters. So you switch that thing in and put it on charcoal filters. Don't get any of that air outside, because prolonged exposure causes lung illnesses. You know, and look at the amount of lung illnesses that are in this country. You got to ask yourself, what is really going on? You know, so this video got a little long, but I do just want people to understand or maybe look at other avenues, because you can't rule this out. You just can't do it. It's impossible. Knowing what we know, you can never rule this out, you know. So, all right, guys, so back to the video. Okay, I'm gonna leave you with this, and this was a few months ago, and this was sent to me because, you know, somebody does watch my channel, and when this came up, they sent it right to me, because I've been talking about this since the beginning of this whole entire ordeal, when I was studying the 1918, you know, situation, and being in a world war at the time that these agents, these chemicals ended that war, and we had an outbreak. But ironically, it was around the time of the you-know-what, the 1918. And, you know, it was very interesting. Right around then, also, you had the United States Gas Corp, which was manufacturing this stuff. And one of the elements was called phosgene. I advise anybody to do research on phosgene. Okay. But anyways, I smelled a burning smell that I thought was coming from my car. Scared me, so I pulled over. Spooky. I smelled something similar in Gates on Thursday. Now, Gates is a town near Rochester. All this is in the Rochester, greater Rochester area, that, you know, around this area. Someone said, yes, in Brockport. Didn't matter where I went. Was wondering what was going on. Whittier Road area also had that smell of wires burning. I shut my breakers off in the back of my house thinking I had an electrical issue, since the smell was near the back door and outside in the dog's yard. Yes, I could smell it at the school around 11, and I thought it was my car all the way through Clarkson. Someone else said, yes, my husband, we are in Clarkson. We've been saying for weeks now, our water smells like chlorine. They must have treated it. I don't know. I don't smell it and haven't been outside, but I work at SUNY Brockport. Smelled it all day. Smelled it at Albion around 11-ish. The twilight zone. My husband said the same thing this morning. Well, this is wild. I did smell the exact same thing around downtown Rochester around 11:45 a.m. I did as well, coming out of Brockport Walmart at 11 a.m. Yes, I did. I live in Brockport and smelled it when I took my dog out around that time. I smelled it off West Ave around that time. Very noticeable, you know. This was alarming, and I went into the group and I read a lot of these comments, and I was just appalled at, you know, the stuff that I seen. And, you know, it was pretty wild that everybody smelled this. And, you know, so this was the main page. Okay. Now, this is what the post was that got all the comments. Did anyone smell a chemical smell in the breezy outside air this morning around 11 a.m. noontime? Almost like a pool chlorine type odor. My husband and I were running errands in 2 different towns. We both said something about it. I'm just curious if anyone knows the source of the odor. And these are other comments. Well, this is wild. Yes, I did smell the exact same thing in downtown Rochester around 11:45. I did as I was coming out of Brockport Walmart. Yes, I live in Brockport. Smelled it when I took my dog out around the same time. I smelled it off West Avenue around, very noticeable. I work in Aranacoy. I smelled it around 11:15. Very weird. Yes, but I couldn't identify it. Village of Brockport. I smelled it on Ridgeway by Mount Reed too. Could it be something that may be using on the roads to treat ice and snow? I work at SUNY Brockport. Smelled it all day. Smelled it in Albion. And these are, all the comments from people who did notice this chemical chlorine type smell. I'm just saying, call me whatever, just a hunch. And the CDC even has phosgene on it. It's a major industrial chemical used to make plastic and pesticides. All right. As you've seen, I've shown photos of this being used and where. Phosgene gas may appear colorless or as a white, pale to pale yellow cloud at low concentration. It has a pleasant odor of newly mown hay or green corn, but its odor may not be noticed by all people exposed. At high concentrations, the odor may be strong and unpleasant. Just think, guys. Phosgene was used extensively during World War I as a choking pulmonary agent. Among the chemicals used in the war, phosgene was responsible for the large majority of deaths. So I'm not saying anything, but it is what it is. A lot of us have reported burning eyes during this whole Mr. 19 debacle. Burning nasal passages, burning eyes, loss of taste, loss of smell. Look at this. During immediate or after exposure to dangerous concentration of phosgenes, the following signs and symptoms may develop: coughing, burning sensation in the throat and eyes, watery eyes, blurred vision, difficulty breathing, nausea, skin contact will result in lesions similar to those of frostbite or burns. Following exposure to high concentrations, a person may develop fluid in the lungs, pulmonary edema within 2 to 6 hours. Exposure to phosgene may cause delayed effects that may not be apparent for up to 48 hours after exposure, even if the person feels better or appears well. Removal from the exposure. Therefore, people who have been exposed to phosgene should be monitored for 48 hours. Delayed effects can appear for up to 48 hours, including difficulty breathing, coughing up white to pink tinged fluid, signs of pulmonary edema, low blood pressure, and heart failure. Most people who recover after exposure to phosgene make a complete recovery. However, chronic bronchitis and emphysema have been reported as results of phosgene exposure. So I'm not saying anything, but it is what it is. You guys can go do your own research. And I just put 1 and 2 together. I've been natural for over 6 years now. I understand the human body well. And this is a high probability. So people should be wary, pay attention. And peace and love, everybody. And I'm going to leave you with one more thought. Think about the switch to the KN95 mask. Then think about all the biological talk. Could it possibly be in the future that all this was a biological weapon? Which would be a chemical weapon, but they would call it biological. Think about this. The mask. Why are they having us wear a mask? Maybe they are unleashing something in the air, and they want those that don't wear it to catch it. Just saying. Some things to think about, because we know when the mask mandates come back, the only masks that would be allowed are the KN95 and the N95 or above masks. There will be no more cloth masks. The groundwork is already laid for a so-called biological agent attack. We're already prepped for it. Hell, we are already at war. So just think about it. It would create more lockdowns, more security. If, in fact, this ends up being a world war, we will be right back in lockdowns, restricted movement, martial law, military rule. And this is not to put fear in anybody. We just have to think of what's right in front of us. Well, they're telling us to look left and then telling us to look right. We have to look at what's simply in front of us. Peace and love.